Hello, I want to let you know about my newest fantasy novel, Flame in the Dark, and what has led me to actually create it and become a writer in the first place. My novel is set in an epic fantasy setting I've been creating over the past, actually before COVID is when I first started on it. And it has a strong sort of found family trope with the classic races of elf and human. And it basically centers around a main character who comes from a time in the past when his entire civilization was basically wiped out and broken. There are still survivors now, but he re enters the world still young and finds a group of adventurers who sort of help him re enter the world, but at the same time, their journey is bringing him closer to that same darkness that he's been trying so hard to escape from. So I'll give you some more details about in a little bit, but I also want you to tell this is my first video for my channel. And I want to focus on two things. One, I want to update people on my latest writing and what I'm up to. But I also want to let you know what made me become a writer in the first place and how I ended up on that journey. Now, I don't know about all of you. You're probably all readers. Some of you might also be writing as well. And just for my personal story, I basically been addicted to fantasy my whole life. So I started reading The Hobbit when I was 9 years old. It was my mom and dad gave it to me. And they said, all right, son, this is your first book. It's like, oh, cool. I started reading it and I was instantly sucked in. So I was brought in by that. Then I had The Lord of the Rings. So I finished The Lord of the Rings like in grade 4, grade 5. And I just kept reading and reading. I think part of it came from watching my mom, who used to just sit there every Sunday with a big pile of books from the library. And she'd just sit there and read through them. And I'd sort of take that from her. Then I got older and I just kept reading. I went to the library as a teenager. I'd pick one author and I'd just devour it. So I picked up the Dark Tower series by Stephen King, and eventually I found The Wheel of Time, Malazan, and all of those kind of epic stories that really, really sucked me in. And basically, eventually, I just realized I'd just been consuming my whole life. So I was just surrounded by things. I love literature. I love the fantasy series on TV, The Witcher, or anything like that. So I decided, though, it was time to sort of flip the switch and start to produce sort of from what I've been consuming for so long. And a big motivation for that was when my daughter was born. So just watching her grow up and the sort of natural creativity we're all born with, just watching her learn and build and create, draw, construct everything around her to this day, inspired me that, maybe I lost touch with that part of myself. So at first I started finding other outlets. I started designing websites, blogging, just as an outlet to try and rebuild that creativity and that confidence. And finally, it just sort of switched like, wait, why don't I write my own novels? Because I love this world. And so something inside me just started to step up and just sort of gain the confidence, like I'm going to try and do it. So I just kept working on it over the past couple of years. And I finally have finished my first novel, Flame in the Dark, part of the epic fantasy series, The Chronicles of Lentallon. So this is really inspired by a lot of different things. To be honest, part of it is the planescape setting from Dungeons and Dragons you might see behind me, and that kind of universe full of all these both incredible angelic beings and these sort of horrible hell beasts, and everyone's sort of caught in the middle. Although it doesn't take place in any kind of afterlife, there is that influence that I found from there of different forces kind of battling over the mortal realms. But then we have a fantasy setting of the classic humans and elves, and those are the main characters right now. I might introduce some other races later, though, but ideally there are these kind of demonic forces that are trying to creep in and influence and take over, and they almost succeeded 1,000 years in the past in my current story. My protagonist is coming back in, sort of a survivor from that time. I don't want to say too much because don't want to ruin the start of the novel. But he's going to find this group of sort of adventurers who are also kind of like lost characters. For whatever reason, they're out of their own homeland. So we have this kind of warrior who's been cast out from his home, but he still has those strong ideals, and he's not willing to let go of those as he tries to find his place, meeting up with another character who's actually an elven princess who's leaving her people to try to find her own people's place in the world as the elves sort of fade in the background and become sort of weaker over time. And then finally there's a wizard character who's just trying to do his best to keep everybody alive as he learns himself. So all these characters play on the backdrop as these kind of demonic forces are starting to build again. And the world is sort of naive to it and ignoring it and doing its own thing. And these new adventurers all stuck together, trying to help each other and find their own way, all coming from different backgrounds, and they all have to work together. And that's where that sort of found family trope comes from. And I think a big influence on that is from me personally, because the way I grew up, I was very much on my own from a young age, probably because of personal family issues that we had difficulties. I was just kind of on my own by the time I was like 12, 13, 14 years old. So I sort of have that found family experience that maybe a lot of people go through when they go to university, but I sort of went through it a lot earlier in my life. And I think that's why this book has that influence of different people coming together and really sort of helping each other. So this book will be coming out August 1st. And right now I've already got the book cover. And if you look through some of the sorts, you can find it posted. Also, you can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. I post there with all the latest updates. But I'll be here every week, and I'll give some information about what I'm up to, just like this, and where I'm doing my writing. I've got all the artwork done. I'm going to start working on the website, actually, right after I do this video. And I'll give an update on that next week. But stay tuned. If you want more updates, go ahead. There's a link below you can click, and you can sign up for my newsletter. I'll be sending out newsletter every 2 weeks with just an update on everything I'm doing, where all my novels are going. And there's even a novella I'm writing that's going to come out, which is actually sort of a prequel. So if you sign up for that within the next few weeks, you can also get that sent to you in the newsletter. So go ahead, sign up below if you're interested, or hit subscribe. Go ahead, hit the like button. It would help me a lot because this is my first channel here on YouTube for this book series. All right. See you later, everybody.